following program on Ada Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations. We would like to remind our viewers that the views expressed in this program by our participating guests are solely viewpoints of them who take part, and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network.
Welcome down to Gen XYZ right here on Ada Derana 24, where we're quite excited to give you a different take today. We've spoken about bullying, we've spoken about a lot of concerning matters of the youth, but we've always spoken about it with professionals. We've spoken about it with doctors, lecturers, and so many adult-based individuals. But we've never done this before. Talking to the real people that really go through these things, the representatives of these leading schools in Colombo. We've definitely heard of them multiple times. We definitely hear all of these horrifying stories that we hear that leads to very detrimental situations with many youth members. Well, that is exactly what we're going to talk about today right here on Gen XYZ, about bullying, with the youth members representing different leading schools in Colombo. Well, with that, let's jump right into the conversation. We're joining in with Celine, we're joining in Gunnan, and we're definitely joining in with you as well. We're very excited to have you on board today. Celine, I want to just throw the first question and jump right into it, because it's a very important conversation as well, right? It's about bullying. For the first time, we're actually taking the perspectives of you guys, the representatives who have freshly graduated from school, and these are leading schools in Colombo, that we hear the majority of the horrifying stories, right? So Celine, what is your take, or have you experienced your friends, your family, your colleague, whatever it is, that has actually gone through bullying, specifically in school?
Personally, I have never gotten bullied, right? And I don't think I've heard of anyone, like my friends in school, that have. But because I define bullying as something that is, where you put the other person down, and it's something consistent. It happens every day, right? Not just like short outbursts where people get mad during conflicts and stuff. There are obviously conflicts that happen in school, in a school environment, which I think is healthy also. But I personally have never seen bullying as portrayed on like Western media and things like that. But yes, that's my take in my school.
Okay, that's very interesting. Why did you say that is healthy?
Conflicts
are healthy,
because
right.
you need to have disagreements to come
right.
to an actual informed decision when it comes to any sort of decision making.
Wonderful. And what do you think about it?
Yeah, I do think that, like in schools, like you said, in leading school, there is that occasional insult, there is that occasional banter. And at times it can go beyond the limit where it should be cut off. So it's about nipping it in the bud when some sort of disagreement or banter that is unhealthy comes through. So the point of which to say that it won't exist is a lie, but to nip it in the bud is what's important. And I think as long as to what I've seen, nipping it in the bud has happened. So I think that's what I see from it.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I like the way you put it that way. What do you think? Now, I know you come from a very prominent school as well. So you're coming from an all-boys school, she's coming from an all-girls school, you're coming from an all-girls school as well. So what is your take? Have you experienced maybe your friend, or have you experienced yourself a sense of bullying in school?
Yes, so you can't say that bullying isn't there. It is there, but as Gunnan said, the school tries their best to take action to stop the bullying. As soon as they hear of something, proactive measures are taken, they talk with the girls and try to resolve the conflict. And
okay, yeah. So that's what you're saying. Trying to resolve the conflict, right? Because I think, okay, this is a little bit of a contradictory aspect of things, right? I know it's mainly the youth members themselves inflicting the pain on the others, right? But what if it's the case that the people that are guiding or are in the power, example, it could be the principal, example, it could be lecturers, it could be the priest, it could be anyone, right? What if they're the ones inflicting these painful bullying aspect of things? Like, what if that's the case? I'm going to throw the question to you, Ganan, because I think on an all-boys school as well, it's a prominent school. I feel like you have a better take on this as well, right? So what is your take on that? What if that's the situation?
If it's like you're saying an adult or some person
Precisely,
of power.
the ones who are in power that are supposed to resolve the situation, if they're the ones causing and inflicting bullying.
I just think that's preying on a child, and that's not bullying in the first place. That's another problem in and of itself. That's a person.
Hold on, sorry. Preying on a child. Preying on a child.
Like P-R-E-Y, preying on a child.
Okay,
If it's
right.
Because I think bullying is something that's happened from people with similar age category. It could different reasons. It could be race. It could be how you look, things that you own, things that you don't own. Those are normally the criteria through which bullying happens. But if it's just an adult in power enforcing their power or will over somebody else, I think that's preying, and that's a whole different. Almost a crime, because you're attacking a child basically.
Right.
That's a whole different problem, and that's not bullying in its essence, especially in an all-boys school like you yourself mentioned.
Okay, but that's sadly the situation that's taking place, hasn't it? It's been taking place for a very long time in schools, and it's taking place right now as well. And that is exactly what we're trying to sort of like bring to light and say, hey, this is happening in these schools. Even though we celebrate the schools, it is basically happening. So I want to bring something else up as well. So now that is very interesting that you mentioned that. It is a sense of crime. But what if this crimes that we actually speak of is just slipped under the rug? It's never even spoken about. It's like, okay, it happened, it's all right, it's still happening, just slip it under the rug. You're the survivor of the entire clique of, in your school. So you just move along, okay, graduate, do your thing. But what about these things? Why is it slipped under the rug? That is the main aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
You're absolutely right. I think like not talking about it or slipping it under the rug is extremely wrong. Agreed. And that's why I think like a third party comes in schools where there are independent counselors or people who are supposed to guide students. And I think it's their responsibility to take an independent stance rather than supporting the authority of the organization or the children, right? That's where the independent party comes into play. So I think it's that party and the student themselves being backed by their parents or whoever their guardian is to take stance, because not talking about it, like you said, is exactly the biggest problem. People think, oh, this is part of our culture, or this is what we need to follow, or this is part and parcel of going through the school, and that's inherently the problem, like you said. So I think it's take that independence and voicing yourself, because if you're not talking, it's just going to keep on getting worse, like it has happened 20, 30 years ago in most schools and most institutions in general.
Okay. Now, I know off of the camera we spoke about this as well with regards to something very serious, but you were like, it's just, it's like rumors. That's what all of you guys were actually saying. So give me a stance of what you actually think is a rumor that you've actually heard that's gone through your school or still going through your school. Give me a stance.
Yes, there have been cases like you said, and when things have got explicit, there have been situations that the newspaper articles, this is very public, where the school has literally fired the leadership these are talking about students, right? Student leaders or seniors, like I was saying, if they're praying. So there have been situations where if it's explicit, if it's obvious, the students get sacked, because it's just unruly to have students who prey on like younger children in and of itself. But the problem with this is very hard to draw the line as to where it's banter and bullying, because it's very sensitive things that different people take differently, but that doesn't mean it should not be taken seriously. So because of that, I think when things get explicit, you take direct action, very harsh consequences, but it's up to that person to realize, okay, I am going through bullying. This is not a normal joke anymore. This is not a casual insult. And at that point, it should be their job to go to this independent party and make their claim.
Okay.
Is what I think.
So you didn't answer my question. Give me a stance that you claim, or people actually claim that it is a rumor, but it's not really a rumor. Maybe. Just give me a stance.
My stance is that according to what I've seen in school,
an experience. Give me something, and what you think has actually been that, a sense of bullying. For an example, like you mentioned, it was newspaper articles that actually was published. Give me something why that was published. What was that circumstance that took place? Give me one of those circumstances.
I think it was about a decade ago, if I'm not mistaken, and it was an unfortunate occurrence in school extracurricular, a sport. Where there was like an unfortunate situation where a senior of the team somewhat acted unnecessarily with a junior.
Inappropriately.
Yeah, right. You can call it that. And the school found out that this is happening, and he got removed. So, like you said, rumors do exist, and when there's proof that something has happened and there's clear-cut evidence with the person who has been victimized.
On. So, going back to the story that you said, right? So we're talking about an explicit thing that he was actually accused of. That's what you're saying.
That's what the school found out.
Okay, they found out about that, and then they had obviously had to dismiss or sack the student.
Yes,
that's
because
what you're basically saying here, right? So that was the situation. So I want to dial back on the situation because you're not giving a cut-edged answer on exactly what the situation is, right? So basically, what you're saying is this senior was explicitly invoking certain things that actually affected the students. That's going to be the juniors, right? That's what you're saying, and this is basically sexually as well, I presume.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so that's what you're basically, implying, if you would put it that way. So that happened, right? But then the situation is, okay, there was action taken place, and these are things that are still happening, if you think about it. And this is not just in your school, we're talking about the girls' schools as well, right? It's a thing that's happening because there is this thing of seniority, and there's also this thing of juniority, right? Why is this thing there? Now, I know you are senior, I'm going to come to Celine. You're a senior, and you also have your juniors. Why is this culture still there? Because that's a primary aspect or opening way of bullying.
I think the whole conversation about the difference between being a senior and just being a junior, right? Is that
just being a junior?
Being a junior. So,
okay.
Sorry, let me rephrase myself. But the problem is, when you become a senior, you get all these positions. You become prefects, you're given presidencies, captaincies, and with that comes a sense of responsibility, and you're respected in school. So, for example, if I was a grade 6 kid, I won't be allowed to just walk out of my class, ask for permission and walk out of my class saying, I have this, I have that. But when you get your A-level classes, because your teachers also understand that you have these certain responsibilities, you're given that sort of independence in a certain way in school, right? Obviously, it's curtailed to a certain extent, but we also get that sort of independence. So I think because of that sort of respect that we get in school, people tend to, I don't know if it's bullying necessarily, I don't consider it bullying, but I think we sort of look down on our juniors, or we think that they're sort of, oh look, I have like a badge or like a position or whatever, right? So therefore my position is better than yours. But I personally haven't seen that case happen in that certain way where you put down someone. But I've seen where prefects or whatever had to pull rank, obviously, in certain instances when it comes to disciplinary issues. And they have to pull rank. That's a problem. I've never seen, apart from just normal conflicts, I've never seen cases of bullying or people putting down people in that sense.
Okay, Selena,
yes.
You mentioned in terms of, you do get this sense of authority,
yes.
right? And then you are respected.
Yeah.
You tend to look down on them. Yeah. That's something that you mentioned right now, right? Why do you look down? Why is that a cultural thing? Is that thought to you? Okay, you need to look down because that's the primary aspect of, okay, I'm going to bully this kid, or that person's going to be feeling very inferior, right?
I don't think looking down on someone is what I know I said it, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was, I know my rank, I know my seniority over you. For example, if we were having a team activity, right, and you appointed a team leader and something needed to get done, I will pull rank. If people are slacking, I will say, you need to do this, you need to do that. I will have arguments with them. I think that's what I meant. But I think the reason why people do that, because I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, right? It does. It's just that I haven't come across a situation. But I would think the reason that people do that sort of thing is because they themselves feel inferior and that they need to project their insecurities.
So what you're saying is basically you were projecting your insecurity. Is that what you're saying?
I have never looked down on someone. What I meant was I've pulled rank.
Okay.
Because I was also involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. Right. There were times when people didn't pull the weight when it comes to club activities and stuff.
Right.
And I needed to, scold them and be like, hey, you need to do this, and
okay.
all of that. Encourage them, motivate them, but also hold them accountable for the things that they haven't done for whatever I expected to do, right?
Okay.
I don't look down. I would like to
let's diverge a little bit, okay? In terms of what you mentioned, let's not talk about you. Let's talk about someone else that is also in there, because I think you may have a sense of, okay, hey, you know what? It is happening, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that they do look down on it. They project their insecurities because of this rank, and then they pull this as a rank. Why do you think this is the case? Not on your personal aspect.
Yes.
I'm talking about, okay, you have seen, because you worked with a clique of people, right?
Yes.
All of them are, according to cops. Is that what it's called?
Not necessarily.
Responsibilities that they get,
they've been given
with
positions.
a rank.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do you think this is the case? Why are they projecting their insecurities? Do you think this is what they went through when they were kids as well, or they were juniors?
Could be. I mean, because I've never gone through it, I don't know the specific reasons. It could be a multitude of reasons, right? It could be pressure from home. right? Because, I mean, we know how the Sri Lankan education system is. It's a lot of pressure when it comes to exams, getting marks, getting into good universities and all that, right? The thing is, I can't pinpoint as to one reason or this is why they're, I mean, I don't know why people bully.
Give maybe 2 or 3 reasons.
I would say obviously parental issues,
okay.
family issues, familial issues, and maybe they have issues themselves in their social circles. Maybe they are people who are, you know, maybe like the less superior person in their friend clique or something like that, so they need to find that sort of power in some other way. I personally haven't come across it, obviously, but I would assume that that would be the reason.
Okay, all right, that's very interesting. And do you think it's the same as well? Because I know you come from another prominent school as well, all of us know. I don't want to mention the school, but obviously it's a very prominent school. Have you witnessed this? Because I think this school has produced a lot of individuals that are actually successful people today, but there is a sense of deep bullying. There's a sense of deep, you know, projection of insecurity as well as soon as you get your rank. Is this the case as well in your school?
Yes, so you mentioned that like people in leadership would tend to like really look down on the others. In our school, I haven't really seen that a lot because they do encourage the children to be humble. Humility is a core value that they try to instill within the children. So it's so like students with leadership, they do have to, you know, discipline the younger children, but that is not necessarily bullying, because if a senior tells you to do something,
like what Selena mentioned, it's about projecting your insecurity as well, to an extent, and that is the main culprit when it comes to bullying and everything. Well, you know what, we'll talk a little bit more on the other side, but thank you so much once again for doing this right here on Gen XYZ. Once again, in case you're wondering where exactly this beautiful aesthetic place is, it is actually at Rajagiriya, and this is the Sanctuary Restaurant and Bar. Don't forget, they've got Thai food, they've got amazing cuisines. Definitely come by and definitely enjoy what they have to offer to you. But until then, we'll jump into a short commercial break. Welcome back to Gen XYZ right here on Other Than 24. Well, in the previous segment, we spoke about something very important. I think one of the individuals spoke about, well, ranks, pulling ranks because they also project their insecurities, and that is exactly why the main causation of bullying takes place in the youth of Sri Lanka, especially in these leading schools. Well, we actually threw that question to you as well, right? Because you're coming from a very leading school where you've got all of these ladies who've actually, you know, achieved so much in their lives as well right now, presently in Sri Lanka. But to a certain extent, these guys have actually gone through this as well. Right? So you were answering your question as to how it was going to take place. So please tell me and continue exactly why is it projecting that sense of insecurity on your juniors, and that's leading to bullying, isn't it?
Okay, so pulling ranks as in, so like I believe that when you are in a leadership position, say you're captain of a sport, it is your duty to make sure the girls show up for practices, make sure that they are maintaining the discipline, and like making sure that the team is ready, say, for a tournament. So in those instances, like there will be times when you have to raise your voice at the girls if they are not listening. However, it doesn't really lead, at least I haven't seen it leading to a bullying situation because the teachers in charge are also very involved with the teams. So say a captain would say try to get the children to say come for practices, and if the girls are not listening, the teachers in charge also do get involved. So when a captain say tells the children like what they're supposed to do, I don't really see that as bullying, and it's just handled very diplomatically in school.
Okay,
yes.
I like the way you put it that way, diplomatically it's handled, but as yet if you're asserting power, or if you're asserting a sense of, okay, this is what I'm projecting, this is what I'm yelling at you for, the way you deliver matters, right? Because the way you deliver, you wouldn't feel how that person's feeling.
Yes.
They feel belittled, they feel weird, they feel awkward, they're hurt, they're pained, and they're growing children, you know, they're definitely growing children. You must have grown at that particular time as well, as a junior. It leads to the worst things, mentally, physically.
Yes.
So if you're asserting that, what do you have to say about them feeling that?
Yes, delivery does matter, and all of us, you know, when we're going to school, we're stressed, we have so much work. So I'm sure those misunderstandings are possible, but in those
Misunderstanding. Delivery and misunderstanding. Well, quite different things, right? Do you think this is stemming because of the culture that, you know, the teachers themselves are actually like proactively saying or yelling at you, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you studying? That's something that you're actually carrying forward. Is that something that you could actually, is that the reason maybe?
No, so if you are, so say someone gives you an instruction and if the children are not following, so...
Then you yell, basically.
Yes, I wouldn't say yell, but there will be consequences. They don't necessarily yell.
Consequences, okay.
Yes,
All
so
right.
for example, if you don't attend practices, you wouldn't be allowed to go for a tournament. So
Right.
that's the
I'm going to
rule.
cut you off
Yeah.
there, okay, because I want to divert it to you. Now, you come from an all-boys school as well, right?
Yeah.
I think the previously as well actually asked something where, you know, the assertion of, it could also be considered as a rag, it could also be considered as bullying, right? Where you actually get into sport, okay, if you do get into sport, you do assert certain things. When I mean projecting your insecurities, I mean to an explicit sense that even goes on a tendency of sexuality. I don't want to really mention what it is, right? But you know, the act that you have to produce or you have to act or do in order to actually get into this sport. Now, this is a thing that's, you could call it a rumor, but you know, it is in realism, it actually does happen. What do you have to say about this?
Firstly, I would like to challenge that it being realism, because obviously I understand that it exists in some areas of, you know, the sport world, the school sport world. But that being said, I don't believe it goes until that extent, because these rumors, they generate from, not from your very own school, but they usually generate from opposing schools, from rivals per se. So what they do is, that's natural, that happens as banter, and it goes around.
As banter?
As banter, because,
Right.
for example, imagine two schools were playing a big match, school A, school B. Now, before the big match, school B would suggest or say or spread the rumor saying school A does this to get into the first team, or school A does this to their students or their players, and that will obviously tarnish the reputation of school A, yes, and that is ultimately the goal of school B, going into this big match with the extra confidence.
Okay, what if these victims who've actually now achieved so much in their lives, their families and everything, if they're coming out and saying, hey, this happened to me, this is the reality of these things, then what is the challenge there if it is realism, if they come out and say it?
Obviously, that being said, these stuff definitely would have happened, definitely.
Okay.
There is no denying stuff like this happening. But
So your challenge is being failed, basically.
not exactly either. There's no denying that these stuff have happened. But as of now, as of recently, with progressive society, people getting more aware of their rights and their, you know, what their self-respect that they
Right.
deserve as players, as individuals, as people of that sport. There is obviously a moving towards a better direction in this perspective, because if you take now and possibly 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, when our fathers or our uncles would have played, obviously the sport, the dynamic, the perspective what the players have on each other, the juniors have on their seniors and the seniors have on their juniors, have completely changed.
Right.
You can ask anyone that's older, they'll probably ridicule you for being, you are too soft, you are too this, but we, the younger generation, know that this is moving in a more favorable direction for us, for our mental health, for our overall being as, you know, well-respected humans.
So you're saying that there is no sense of bullying that's taking place in your school? That's what
I'm
you're
saying there is a great change that's happening now, and we are the forerunners of it.
Right.
We are the reason that this is changing because of our progressive thinking about. I'm saying that as humans we evolve, and I think that's what we're doing in this sports culture that we have in schools.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, that's a very interesting. So far, I like the answer. Okay, I definitely do like the answer. But I'm going to divert to you because you come from another prominent school as well in Colombo. Now, your school primarily is known to be very, if I would put it this way, known to be bullying a lot of people, right? Because this whole seniority and juniority is actually very active in your school. So how do you navigate this? Have you experienced a sense of bullying in your past, or how exactly has it been for you?
So for me personally, I have not been bullied, nor have I been a bully. I don't see it to be quite active, at least in my batch or the batch above me or the batch below me. I don't see it as a prevailing issue. As in terms of the whole ranking system, I think there is a hierarchy for a reason, because you have to have people accountable. You have seniors in charge because they've worked for it. They've earned it. It's through meritocracy, right? Because they're responsible, they're good at what they do, and they have to be there to make sure that things get done and they're getting done on time. So there is a sense of seniority in the sense that if there is an issue, you go to the senior and they will solve it for you.
Is there something called a survival method that you guys follow, which is like the fittest actually go through school, the rest drop out because they can't? It's hard for them to actually even go through or come to school every day.
No. So in my experience, no. And one of my favorite things about my school is that everything is open. Like when it comes to clubs and societies, literally anyone can join. There is no sense of, okay, if you want to do karate, you have to get some sort of ranking, then you can. So if you want to be in the school team or something, then yes, you have to earn it. But if you want to join the club, if you want to learn, then it's open to everyone, which I think is great. So I don't really see the whole seniority, juniority thing as an issue. I think it's just, personally, as a junior, I looked to my seniors as role models, and they were like the people I wanted to be. Because I think when we had issues, they solved it. And, although they do have privileges, like Selena mentioned, that, sometimes you get to miss class, you get to leave class early because you have certain responsibilities, and your teachers, they know that, you have to get things done. Even though they have these, privileges, there's also so much responsibility and a burden that comes with it because you're responsible for so many children.
Right.
So I don't see it as an issue, really.
Okay, that's very interesting actually, because I feel like it's very contradictory to an extent as well, because of the people that actually converse and say, no, there is bullying, no, this is the place where I hate going to.
I'm not saying there isn't bullying. I do think, so again, as I said, personally, I have not been bullied. I haven't really witnessed it. I do think that sometimes there are mean comments that are being said, but I think that's just a general part of humanity, right? We're not all perfect people. You have to make your mean comments and then you grow from it. And I think that's something that is there in my school experience, because sometimes we've made comments that we didn't see as rude, especially as children. If you see someone who's dark skinned, you'll be like, oh, that person's black, right? And even though they're just dark skinned, and then your teachers, because this is a mistake I've seen being made, and your teachers kind of come to you and they're just like, that's not a nice thing to say. And I think it's a process of growth, really. So, yeah.
Okay, I think you mentioned something very key here, right? Because religion plays a main role when it comes to the local schools in Sri Lanka, right? Religion plays a role, color plays a role. If you get burnt in the sun, okay, that's it. You're color coded to, okay, this is what you are. You're black, you're white, okay, you're privileged if you're white, you're not privileged so much if you're black. The whole thing is there. That is the primary aspect that you mentioned. So thank you very much for doing that, and definitely coming and joining us today as well to have a conversation about bullying, especially in your leading school. So thank you very much once again. And this is Gen XYZ that you're tuned into, and we'll jump into a short commercial break. Welcome down to Gen XYZ right here on Other Than 24, where we're quite excited because we have actually got individuals representing different schools of Sri Lanka, leading schools in Sri Lanka as well, to talk about something very important. They're talking about bullying. Well, this has been a case of, conversation with quite a lot of people, doctors, psychologists, principals, lecturers, but we've never really gotten to the bottom of it to really talk to the students who are really experiencing it or really actually facing these or have a different perspective rather on exactly what bullying is. All right. So we've got three boys representing three different schools, giving you a little bit of a sense as to what their perspective and what their take is when it comes to bullying. All right. Now, obviously, we had a little conversation with you in terms of sport. That is mainly what we actually touched based on, right? So I'm going to base it on talk to you. I want to know what your take is when it comes to bullying, specifically when it comes to sport in these prominent schools in Sri Lanka.
As Jaden previously said, I think it's it's greatly exaggerated to most of them, but that does not mean it does not exist either.
Why do you think it's exaggerated?
Exaggerated, of course, there's many reasons to gain an edge over competition.
Right. So you said there's something there is, it doesn't mean that it is also not true,
yeah.
Which means it is true.
It is true.
What is true?
I guess you could say like...
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, to have some level of success, I assume these rumors won't spread along as fast as they would if it wasn't true to some extent. So what I'm saying is, I think some of these are true because sports teams, they are different to, let's say, if we take leadership and sports, there's differences between them.
Yeah.
So sports, obviously, I think in terms of success, I think there's greater pressure in terms of physical, maybe abuse or whatnot. So maybe a way a coach would reflect his desire for students to improve and whatnot might be different from leadership style. So instead of scolding or getting the point across, that could come across as a beating and whatnot. Let's be real that this is how it's going to come across now. So that's why I say it's true to some extent. You can't say it's not true. It is true. These coaches get physical with the students, but the extent to which it is exaggerated, I think it's part of just banter and whatnot.
Banter and whatnot, right. So you meant, so you also have this aspect of physical, that's what you mentioned. Basically, they get physical.
Yeah.
In what ways do they get physical, exactly?
Now, as far as I'm considered, when it comes to sports, of course, with the pressure and whatnot, it's athleticism. I think it just comes down to maybe at best like a beating to get the message across if you really like.
Does this by any chance get to an extent of sexual as well, or?
Again, I think as previously mentioned, I think that point is just an exaggeration of what actually happens. It's just to rile up the people and whatnot, and just other schools to gain a competitive advantage. But in my opinion, I don't think it gets to that point. I've never experienced it. I don't know anyone who's experienced it. But my point is, I think it does get physical, but I don't think it gets to that extent.
Okay, right. So physical meaning, I'm going to throw that question to him as well. Now you're from a school as well, which is very prominent in Sri Lanka. Now when you mean beating, now he mentioned something, they go to the extent of beating, right? Beating in a sense, they use their hands, or in your school per se, do they use their hands to beat these children to affirm their power? Or do they use a sense of equals, whatnot? Rulers sometimes?
Sometimes they use hands, not of time.
Hands mainly, okay. And then have you been beaten?
No.
By your seniors?
No.
Okay, have you been beaten by maybe your teachers or your coaches?
Sometimes, because when we were small, we used to get beat by our teachers, coaches as well. Yeah.
How did that make you feel, man?
Actually, they come and hit us. They come and beat us like when we do something wrong. So, what I feel is like after they beat me, that I get something like I did something wrong and I should make it. So that's what I feel after getting that.
Okay, you did something wrong, and then that's the mindset that they're actually playing around, if I would put it that way, rather, right? So when you grow up, do you think that if you get a leadership position in school, you're going to do the same affirmation? You're going to basically go and hit the juniors? Is that the ideation that comes through?
So as I'm also a child, if I'm
Yeah.
so if my juniors do something like that, I can't go and hit them because that's not correct. I'll just go and advise them, don't do this, Malla.
Okay.
Sometimes
What if they still do that? Then what you're going to do?
we have to take action.
And
We'll
what are
go,
these
go and
actions?
talk to the principals, teachers, and take action to that.
But see, the thing is, does that really happen? Because in majority of the sense, like, you know, the previous students has mentioned as well, the girls specifically, they said they pulled something called the rank. And when they pull the rank, they either yell at the student in a very nasty way, which would affect the student who is a junior, or they would basically, you know, hit the student. So do you think this is basically what happens? I'm going to throw that to him, by the way, the one who's sitting right in the center, who, you know, basically has good answers because, you know, you were also something with a prefect rather, right? The head, a prefect. So you being a prefect, you had to do that. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your other prefects that were with you as well. Is this the case?
So let me be clear. So to reconfirm your question is that have we used physical force when it comes to enforcing rules and regulations within our school?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah, to the juniors.
Okay, juniors. That can spin into two ways. So when you say juniors, it could mean our subordinates, as in people who are maybe prefects or junior prefects under us. Or they could also
Let's keep
mean
it simple. We're talking about the junior students,
regular
the ones
students.
that really go through the pain, right? So let's keep it that way.
Regular students. All right. So personally, as far as I know, in most leading schools in Colombo, this movement of not hitting your children, not hitting the students, not hitting the kids, is very prominent within the teachers. So now even teachers, if you go research a bit, even the teachers aren't allowed to, hit students, which is rather new, but it is still effective, and it has greatly decreased over time. So, for example, you could take when we were in grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it was there, you can't deny it. But as we progressed to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we realized that it has drastically stopped, and when we come to that age, we realize it's not because they wanted it to stop, it's because the government or whatever governing body issued made it stop.
Jaden, how did that make you feel, Jaden? Like, okay, you said as a child you did basically get, equaled or hit or whatever, right? That is a sense of punishment that's actually inflicted as a student. You growing up into being a prefect, now you have got a sense of responsibility and you're supposed to guide the students, you're supposed to basically make sure that the rules are being followed, and when they slip out of following the rules, then there has to be a sense of affirmation. How do you inflict that? Did that run in your mind, said that, hey, you know what, this is what I was experiencing as a junior by my teachers, maybe I should do the same thing, that's the way to go. Was that running in your mind? Was that how you actually articulated it in your mind?
But the thing is, if a teacher, a person of authority, a proper authority, a hired person of this school can't, raise a hand against a student, what right do I have to do it? And with that mindset, if you go into things, you realize it becomes a lot more clear, and you realize that when you are...
Did that run on your mind when you had to affirm, when you got that responsibility? Did it run in your mind?
Obviously, I have a duty to college or duty to my school. I need to make sure that my
duty... So it did run in your mind?
Not per se. Obviously, I have a duty to fulfill and make sure that my responsibilities are done properly. But that being said, we all have an individual approach to completing these responsibilities, to making sure they happen. So per se, when my batch or when my body was doing their prefectship year, we ensured never to, that's personally, I can't speak for every school in Colombo. I am just one person from one school. But I can speak for our batch, our school, or our juniors that are becoming seniors now. I know for a fact that they will not, hit people the way that it would have happened maybe 20 years ago. If I could tie this
So
back,
how do you make sure that you actually deliver in a way that, okay, your juniors are going to listen to you, but at the same time follow the rules, at the same time not be bullied? Because that's where it starts.
And that obviously comes with age, and once you live in that position.
You're not answering my question. So the question is, for instance, how do you affirm and make sure that they do face consequences, but yet not in the form where, okay, they're going to feel bullied, they're going to feel belittled. How do you do it?
all right. How do you make them feel consequences, but at the same time not letting them feel bullied? Yes. Okay. So if you take that question, over time when you are in school, you learn that stuff are right and wrong. As a more normal human being, you realize that. And when you go forward, and so when you're a prefect or when you're a college officer or whatever, you need to make sure your responsibilities are done properly. Firstly, if they don't listen to you, or if they don't respect your wishes or whatever, what you want them to do, or what rules you want them to follow, going into it, you need to have some sort of respect to your name. You need to understand that people should respect you, to follow you or listen to you. You can't be a leader and demand respect. You need to earn it. That being said, if more people had this sort of leadership skill, or they were respected, they won't have to move to the extreme measures or the extreme consequences that would have to be inflicted on students to make them follow those rules and regulations.
Okay, you just literally put my real thought and my actual question into a platter, silver platter. Now you mentioned the fact that, okay, they don't have to go to the extent if they do follow or give you a sense of respect. Respect is the word that we're talking about.
Yes.
Seniors like yourself want the word respect. They want respect, 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 respect. When that's not given, you create all of these methods of, okay, there's a sense of tradition. The tradition is to basically inflict or carry out this thing where, okay, you're supposed to basically give me sexual favors, you're supposed to do this or that or whatever it is in order to get this through. That's one aspect of things. Second aspect of things, okay, I'm going to basically, hit you, or I'm going to basically, you're supposed to do this or that or this or whatever. Belittling the person, the juniors, in order to give you the sense of respect. That is the thing that you're actually basically talking about. Now, I'm not going to talk to you with this regard because you're already going around your mind and you're okay, no. I'm going to ask this from you, okay? Because what do you have to say with this? Because he mentioned something very important. Respect is what they want. And when the respect is not given, they go to these extreme ends. That's what he mentioned. What is your take on it?
So I would say when you're in a position of higher power, obviously hierarchies exist in schools. That's the main goal of these hierarchies is to establish qualities such as discipline and whatnot. That's the main goal. So when you're, let's say you go from a younger place, as you grow up, you go into these higher positions. So you experience, but you might say you experience abuse from seniors and whatnot. What I say is there's a thin line between delivering, so when you're in a position of higher power, there's a thin line between delivering a message and then bullying, as you say. So you can deliver the message, but there's a thin line. So the way you deliver it, so what I say is if you want to deliver to a specific person, you have to take a lot more into consideration. You can't just consider it like a mass. For example, let's say there's a bunch of prefects, you can't treat them all the same. If you want to get a message across where you want them to feel the consequences, but you don't want them to like feel harassed, bullied or anything, you have to treat everyone different. You have to take their specific needs. It might be time consuming and not, but if you want to be like an effective leader and whatnot and get the point across without crossing that threshold, you have to take time. You have to take time to understand how to get the message across.
Right.
You have to take time to understand what
which
they might...
Which usually doesn't happen.
Which unfortunately does not happen.
Right. So I know that you still want to say something here. So yeah, go ahead, say.
Yes, so when I mean that respect is demanded, it is not, you are, as a student, you are never in a place to demand respect. Because respect is never demanded, it is earned.
But see, like you mentioned it, unfortunately, it's not the case. They don't earn it. In their minds and in their mindsets, it's about, okay, I'm going to demand it. And that demand is primarily the reason why there's bullying, is the primary reason why there's so many students committing suicide to whatnot. And these are things that are reported. These are things that are on stats. It is a sad reality of what it is happening in Sri Lanka. But I'm not saying that you're the one who's doing it, so you can show, not you, but it is the reality that's happening, right? And not specifically in your school. We're talking about schools in general in Sri Lanka, right? So unfortunately, that is the silver platter that you mentioned, which is something a word that you mentioned, which was respect, earning that respect or not having that respect. You can't give respect to someone, and that is why, even in Sri Lanka, the government as well, in Sri Lanka in general as well, in companies and whatnot, it is the case, right? When respect is not given to you, okay, you demand it and you go to the extreme ends of things, and that's what happens. And that starts primarily from bullying in all of these things in school. That's where it starts, right? I'm going to shift to you as well, because I want to ask you your perspective when it comes to this. Now, he obviously mentioned, Jaden mentioned the fact that, it's about respect. Respect is what they want, the seniors. When the respect is not given to them, they go to the extreme ends of bullying to whatnot and, belittling you to all the extreme ends, right? What is your take on this?
Yeah. So like Jaden mentioned, so there are some kind of juniors who doesn't give respect to their seniors. Like if we say like, now you say if you are senior, your father's friends, and the junior's child is there. So he will be like, he won't give the respect. He's like, my father is your friend, my father's fathers are friends. So that doesn't matter in a, like something where we are, like in something in a society, you should respect your seniors. So I have seen it. So sometimes juniors doesn't respect their seniors. So seniors should earn that actually. Seniors should earn that. Like advising them, keeping them, not bullying. If they doesn't respect seniors, go bullying them. Like telling something else. That's it.
Okay. So now we obviously spoke a lot in terms of bullying and the actualities of bullying, right? What are the circumstances? Because all three of you, I think, across the table, even the girls, they agree that there is bullying. It's not that they're denying it. There is bullying. But what are the circumstances, you as a prefect, you as a senior as well, what are these things that you actually implemented in terms of preventing or halting or reducing bullying? What are these things that you've done? Let's start with Jaden, because you were a prefect, weren't you? So what is your ultimatum that you actually did in terms of preventing or reducing bullying?
To reduce bullying, you need to start at the root cause. The root cause is insecurities. Insecurities that people project on others. So that is not something that me as an individual or me as a group of people per se can tackle, because to fix an insecurity, it needs to come from oneself, because people can't go around diving into other people's lives, other people's problems, other people's situations, and working their way up from there to make this person a better person. That is not practical, that is not efficient, that it just doesn't make sense. But that being said, we can't let bullying go unanswered or unchecked for either, yes. So I believe that as a prefect or as a leader or as a student, senior, whatever, that it's our duty to protect victims per se, but it's not in our hands to change the bully. It's not in our hands, because to change a bully, one person will only change if they themselves want to change. But if it is in our power to protect the victim, it is in our power to, protect people who are the victims, who are getting bullied, who feel dejected, to protect those people. And I believe that over time, over 13, 14 years in school, that as growing as people, we have learned to do this. We have learned what is right, what is wrong, to stand up for what is right. That is what our college has taught us. And I believe I project that on whatever I do, whatever people I meet.
Okay, Jaden, so let's suppose you have actually done your prefectship, right? You've come out of the prefectship as well, because you've done it. Have you experienced, someone that is being belittled, a junior or whatever it is? What is the action that you have taken place in terms of making sure that, no, that's not been taken place? What have you done as a prefect?
So actuality, so you want a real world example, yes? So, for example, let's bring into the case, see, bullying tends to stop or reduce actually as people mature, yes? So because insecurities really stem from childhood problems or common social issues that they may face, yes? So they usually fix itself over time.
So you're basically giving the problem time to fix itself.
Obviously, you can't overlook it. You can't overlook a person in need, yes? So
why not? Why can't you overlook on this person that's in need?
Because it's morally wrong. We have a moral compass, and you need to stick to that moral compass.
Why is that okay, hold on. So you're saying if someone's actually going through something, and you're in your moral compass, or what you've actually built to be thinking, is the fact that, if they're going through something, no, it's just giving time, and they're going to figure it out, or they're going to, that's what you're saying.
I'm talking on the victim's behalf. So I'm saying I assume that you are asking why do you need to go and protect
on the victim's behalf?
On protect or look after or guide or be there for the victim or the victim of this bullying.
Right.
Not per se the bully. You can't change the bully. You can prevent the bully. You
Prevent the bullying.
You can prevent him from acting. And the minute he stops acting, he stops being a bully. Because actions are what makes bullies or what makes oppressors. See, we can always say
is that the only traction that you guys are doing? So, or
as
are there
in
other
my capabilities as a student, as a prefect or as a senior, that's all I can do. But if the school administration or if higher bodies or if governing bodies, people in the government or whatever, overlooking the education ministry, they identify this problem or they see this problem happening like visibly, they can obviously target and address the issue from there with, I don't know, educational seminars, other programs.
You have a point, and that's the most important thing. Well, thank you so much, Jaden, for doing this. Across the chairs right here, of course, I want you to say one word for those that are actually, maybe victims or maybe not really victims, rather experienced bullying. What are the words that you have to say? Or the ones or even the bullies themselves, what is that one word that you have to say? Let's start off with you.
I mean, if you're bullying someone...
One word. Jaden, have you got a word?
Talk about it.
Talk about it. Okay, that's good.
Think.
Think. I like that. And?
Be aware of that.
Be aware. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much once again for doing this with us on Gen XYZ. Well, it's been a very insightful conversation with these leading schools and youth from the leading schools of Sri Lanka. Well, in case you're wondering where this beautiful location is, it is the Sanctuary Restaurant and Bar located at Rajak area, and it's beautiful, by the way. They've got amazing aesthetics. They've got amazing, when it comes to coffee, when it comes to beverages, food, Thai cuisines, it's absolutely delicious. So definitely come by with your family and enjoy what they have for you as well. But until then, don't forget, if you do miss out on an episode, we are available on youtube.com/othertherana English. And with that, we're going to bounce into another episode that will definitely give you a different take on what is pertaining to the youth. But until then, I'm Akil Qureshi. Thank you very much for watching.
He keeps leaving you for dead. I don't know what you've been waiting for. So you've got your love locked up instead, but something better's waiting at your door. You don't know your worth, all the things I know that you deserve. Say it's not real if it doesn't hurt. Find someone you know will put you first.